Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, ata b'nei chorin, Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, Avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, ata b'nei chorin. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai shir chadash, Shiru Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai shir chadash.
Shabbat shalom. Am I on now? All right, there we go. Shabbat shalom. So about 48 hours before Passover started, I received one of those flurried panic texts. Some rabbi somewhere got COVID, and suddenly there is a senior care facility on the Upper East Side with no one to lead a community Seder. So, because I didn't have any plans, I said, I'll step in, I'll do it. This was one of those situations where if I, took the time to get to know a community and really took my time in making a Seder for them, that's the bread version of a Seder. This was the matzah version of a Seder. I have no idea who's going to be here other than they live in a senior care facility, and I'm just going to do my best with what I have. So I walk in a little bit nervous, not sure who's going to be around the table. And I kid you not, the first person I talk to asks me where I work, and I said I work at Anshe Emeth in New Brunswick, and she said, no way, I grew up there in the 1950s. So, to all of you here tonight, Joan Margulis maybe not have met any of you, but she says hi, and was thrilled to hear that we're still in the same building on Livingston Avenue. So, really reaffirmed to me that wherever you go, deep connections within the Jewish community, and I'm feeling really grateful for that this Passover.
Shabbat shalom. My name is Ina Horn, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Anshe Emeth Memorial Temple. As we gather to celebrate Shabbat during this Passover holiday, let us embrace the spirit of freedom and liberation, The story of Passover reminds us that even in the darkest of moments, hope can prevail. May this Shabbat service be a source of joy, strength, and inspiration for us all. May the messages and themes of Passover and Shabbat serve as a reminder to us that we each have the power to write our own redemption story. Now it is my pleasure to invite Reggie Roth up to the bima to light the Shabbat candles and lead us in the blessings that may be found on pages 2 and 3 in your prayer books. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Lachado D, page 20.
Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shambor וזכור ודיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם תפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מכרם נעשוך סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד בן ישי בית הלך מקרבה אל נפשי גאלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תמיבך יחסו. אני עמי ונבנתה עיר עתילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו, קומב עלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמשוש חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי בית אדוני, תעריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We continue with Hatzi Kaddish, page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי בהמליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחייכו בית ישראל. בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך, יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר בתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
Please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and with it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah umitzvot chukim umishpatim otanu limadeta Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah umitzvot chukim umishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shokbeinu uvkumeinu B'shokbeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי, זה אלי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and freedom be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night. till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. בקורא עונג וקורא עונג. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. המקרשי, מקרשי שביעי, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. והשביעי רצית בו, רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, I sing out my soul, their prayer upon my lips, the song within my heart. Adonai, Sephatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid, Tehilatecha. Adonai, let me find the words that linger on my lips, the prayer within my heart. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Bezocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo ve'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rav leHoshia, Morid Hatal, Mekakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Sovek Noflim Berofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emar ata le'achayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukeroshim v'kol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue with silent prayer through page 63, adding the words and meditations of our hearts. When you are ready to continue, you may be seated.
shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Yanararai, yarararai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yanararai, lalai, yarararai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yararai, nararai, lalai. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Yanararai, lalai, yararai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yanararai, lalai, yararai, nararai, lalai, yararai, nararai, Amen.
Where were you the last time you had a real, deep, spiritual experience? Whether or not you believe in God, beside the question. I'm talking about that gut feeling that you are deeply connected to the universe, the divine, whatever your beliefs are. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. So one of my professors recently opened class with that question. Keep in mind, we're a group full of rabbinic incantorial students, and we all had to answer to each other where the last time we had a profound spiritual experience was. And you would think that as future clergy people, our answers would be something like a big, beautiful sanctuary, down in the Beit Midrash, or I don't know, some kind of prayer retreat out in the wilderness, something really holy seeming. Not a single person listed a prayer service as the last time they had had a profound spiritual experience. Almost everyone in the room said one of the two following things: somewhere in nature or riding public transit. Yes. People are more likely, or at least these clergy students I was talking to have a profound spiritual experience on a bus than they were in the sanctuary. And my professor actually explained that that's not a fluke. Public transit is a really common answer for people. The problem with a place like a big, beautiful sanctuary is that we made it to have spiritual experiences in. There's expectation attached to it. There's a set of decorum. We're all wearing our fanciest clothes. We might be itchy, the pews might be uncomfortable, and we're trying to be the right kind of person who's in a synagogue. We're on our best behavior. When we're out in nature or we're riding the subway or the bus, we don't have to be anything. There's no expectation. We can just be. We have access to that special kind of flow state that comes without self-criticism. It's kind of a catch-22. A sanctuary doesn't seem holy unless we act like it's holy, and when we act like it's holy, that very expectation can keep us from accessing our whole selves. Which begs the question, what are we trying to hide in the spaces we call holy? And if people feel more spiritual on the bus than they do at synagogue, should we stop trying to create holy spaces? Can we be good and whole at the same time? We all have our moments where we feel less than sacred. We've all had those days where we have to think, wait, did I put on deodorant this morning? Sometimes we don't act in accordance with our values. We treat other people poorly because we're tired, hungry, or we're just not thinking. We all have the capacity to act out of selfishness or hurt. But if we're striving to do good, to be good, to seem good, do we have to pretend that those flaws are something that we've already gotten rid of? Can we be wholly, truly, authentically who we are and still feel purely good? During Passover, we reach toward a world redeemed, purely good and fully free. We are meant to look directly at the ways that the world is still imperfect and needs to be healed. Ritually, we do this by ridding ourselves entirely of chametz, to the point of selling all of our bread and pasta and Pop-Tarts and cleaning all of our homes to make sure there's not even residual flour in the couch. We say next year in Jerusalem and imagine a messianic age when we will all be healed. But we also eat the bread of affliction. We dip twice in salt water, once representing tears and pain and once representing freedom and joy. We eat the Hillel sandwich, pairing the bitterness with the sweetness. If we're honest, for all of our stringency and striving for purity, Jews really love to mix the bad and the good together. On Shabbat Chol HaMoed, we have a very interesting glimpse into what it means to be good and what it means to be whole. We don't look to the story of our time in Egypt or the plagues or even our escape, which you might expect at this time of year. But months after, with Moses and Israelites already deep into their desert journey, the Israelites have already received commandments and revelation at Sinai. They have received instructions to build the Mishkan. They've built the golden calf. They've destroyed the golden calf. Moses has smashed the tablets. And now Moses is returning to God at Sinai to face the consequences of what he's done and ask how to move forward. Moses says to God, this mission you've given me, it's not working for me. If I'm going to lead the people, I need you to go out ahead of me so I can follow by example. I am not doing this right. And God says, okay, when you go out, I will be with you. And then Moses asks a very vulnerable question, a question Moses has asked time and time again and been denied. Moses asks if he might finally get to behold God's presence. God says, you can't see my face. My face would kill you. But hide here in the cleft of this rock, and I will make all my goodness pass before you. Ani a'avir kol tuvi lefanecha. If I had one question to ask Moses, it's this moment. I want to know what Moses saw. Was it flashes of color? Was it a memory, a message, a feeling? Was it a piece of God? Or was it all of God? Which is to say, kol tuvi, all of God's goodness. Is God entirely good? Or does all my goodness mean I have some bad parts and I'm not going to show them to you right now? It's an interesting question, and our sages have grappled with it in a few different ways. Tanchuma says that kol tuvi is all-encompassing, a measure of God's goodness and a measure of God's retribution, because everything that God does, kindness, love, forgiveness, understanding, anger, wrath, vengeance, are ultimately for the manifestation of good in the world. Solomon Buber builds on this argument and says that what Moses sees is actually only goodness, but it is the treasures and wealth and wonders that are in store for the righteous. Essentially, he's saying that God gave Moses a preview of paradise. Maimonides takes a very different approach. Maimonides suggests that this actually has nothing to do with our concept of good and bad. He believes that Tov is a callback to the creation narrative, in which God refers to the things created as Tov. Maimonides believes that what passes before Moses in this moment is the totality of creation. So in this one singular instance, Moses becomes the only human being truly gifted with complete godlike understanding of all that has ever been and all that will be. If you've never checked out the Guide for the Perplexed, it's pretty trippy and I recommend it. I can't say that I agree with Tanhuma, that all of God's actions, good or bad, are ultimately for the good. I think we've all seen bad things happen to good people that we could not comprehend. Solomon Buber's suggestion that this is a preview of paradise feels like a strange response to Moses' ask for help. Moses is saying, I don't know if I'm good enough, and God would say, well, this is what I would give to you if you were. And Maimonides, while it does feel the most tempting to me, does ultimately end up suggesting that creation as a whole could be described as goodness, which obfuscates dealing with the reality of the pain and suffering almost as much as Tanhuma. So, you might be wondering at this point, is the student rabbi really trying to tackle the nature of humanity, the nature of God, and the nature of being all in one sermon? And of course, I have not come to a complete answer on this, but I will tell you what I have come to understand. As the first monotheistic religion, the first time a people even attempted to worship a sense of oneness or wholeness, we called ourselves the people of Israel, the people who struggle with God. When we come together to talk about a world redeemed and the meaning of freedom, we do it through stories of bondage and affliction. When we sit in a sanctuary and try to represent the best of who we are, we end up policing ourselves and fixating on our flaws. It seems to me that human beings aren't very good at understanding concepts in a vacuum. We see more clearly through the lens of contrast. We can't know something in its wholeness unless we know its opposite. So if we are made in God's image while being full of contradictions and even learn through contradictions, maybe there's something there that's meant for us. Something about existing in tension, existing in liminal places. Something about coexisting with the inclination to do bad and choosing to do good instead. The one time I can say for certain that I saw someone have a spiritual experience in synagogue was this past fall at consecration. We brought all of the little kindergartners right up here on the bema in front of the ark, and we opened the ark in front of them. And most of them stood the way that a 5-year-old would stand anywhere, a little twitchy, eyes moving around, maybe distracted by their hands. But I had one kid, one 5-year-old, stand in front of the ark like this. Eyes closed, look of complete peace on her face, arms back, like she was fully ready for the Torah to wash over her in all of its glory. In her mind, that light in the ark was meant to shine on her. Those words on that Torah were written just for her to receive it. There was no part of her that was not worthy. It was beautiful. When Moses comes to God in this moment, he does not feel like my kindergartner. He's trying his best, and it is not working. He turns to God and asks for assurance, for a guide, for a shortcut to being the kind of person he needs to be. I'd like to think that Kol Tuvi was the best that God could offer. Maybe this was God's way of saying, here are all my best attributes, all the good things that I've managed to do, and we're in this together. I want you to know the best version of me so you can find the best version of you. Passover asks a lot of us. Judaism asks a lot of us. Who are we to be the people worthy of miracles, of redemption? How can we truly carry this memory of experiencing bondage, this legacy of being a beacon of justice when we live in a world that is unjust and cruel? Whether we come to the table with kol tuvenu, all of our goodness, or just kol, all that we are, the Haggadah itself affirms that we are worthy to eat from the bread of affliction. This light was meant to shine on us. These words of Torah were written for us to receive them. So it's okay tonight if this isn't your most profound spiritual experience. It's okay if the pews are uncomfortable, or you feel an itch somewhere on your suit, or there's something in your heart keeping you from being fully present. But I hope there's some place, whether it's on the bus, or on a hike, or just lying in your bed, that every part of you feels worthy to be in connection with the divinity of all that is. Shabbat Shalom and Hag Pesach Sameach.
Vehi she'amda. And this is what has stood by our fathers and our mothers. For it was not one alone who rose against us to destroy us, but in every generation there are those who rise up against us. But the Holy One, blessed is God, saves us from their hand. Vehi she'amda, lavoteinu velanu. Vehi she'amda, limoteinu velanu. Shelo echad bilvad, amad aleinu lechalotenu. Shelo echad bilvad, amad aleinu lechalotenu. Eila shebechol dor vador, עומדים עלינו לכלותנו, אלא שבכל דור ודור עומדים עלינו ולכלותנו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מאדם, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם. והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, והיא שעמדה אמותינו ולנו.
Before we conclude our services, a few announcements. As always, you can check your This Week at AEMT email for links and a more complete list of what's going on at the synagogue this week. Next Saturday, we are going to have our rabbinic forum with student rabbi, very soon to be regular rabbi, Sienna Lotenberg. That'll be Saturday, April 15th at 10:45 a.m. The next day, we have the Caregiver Symposium. That's Sunday, April 16th at 10 a.m. You can join speakers Sharona Hoffman, Charles Clarkson, and Beth Poplin for an informational meeting for caregivers. The Monday after that, we have the Keepers of Jewish Excellence at 7:30 p.m. We have a guest lecturer coming to speak, Professor Robert Mnuchin from Harvard Law School. Continue now with Misha Berach on page 253. We bring into our minds those who are sick and in need of healing, pray together for their wellness and to support the hands of those that care for them.
Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please rise for the Aleinu, page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We continue on page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed from this earth, our loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked in every race and nation, whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember them in our hearts and those whose names are inscribed on this building. This week, as a community, we remember Beth Keibel, husband of Lydia Keibel, father of Philip and Heather, Mark and Sherry, brother of Maria and Luis, grandfather of Jacob, Zachary, and Rose, Adina, Eliza, and Aviela. If you are joining us on Zoom and have someone you are remembering saying Kaddish for this evening, please feel welcome to enter their name in the chat or say them aloud to yourself. And if you are here in the sanctuary with us, please say their name aloud as my hand passes you. Mourners, and if it is your custom, please rise for the Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yamichon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, bagala v'izman kariv v'yimru, Yehei shmei Rabbah me'varach le'olam ulmei almaya, Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudashah b'richu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace bestow peace to all those who mourn, and may we be a source of peace and comfort to all who are bereaved.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, amen. We close our service this evening in the middle of our Passover season on page 361 with the singing of Bechol Dor Vador as we rise. Bechol Dor Vador Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo כאילו יצא ממצרים, בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו יצא ממצרים, בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים, כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Shabbat Shalom. You can join us for Oneg.
Join us for Oneg
Yes.
next door. But before we do that, I would like to thank Matthew Williamson for joining us this evening. And it was wonderful to have you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Very nice.